This is Between the Uprights.
Football is life. The rest is just details.
Here are your hosts, Joe, Matt, and Chris.
Welcome into Between the Uprights. I'm Joe. Chris and Matt couldn't be here, but that does not mean I'm not going to be giving you that great NFL breakdown you come to Between the Uprights for day in, day out, 24/7, 365. So please hit that like and subscribe button. Help support us here. We're just getting this thing started now. We're about halfway into the season, and we're once again asking the question, did the Chicago Bears draft the wrong quarterback? We all remember, they had a shot at Patrick Mahomes. They went with Mitchell Trubisky. They had a shot at Maye and Daniels. They went with Caleb Williams. And, I know what you're saying. It's halfway through their rookie years, Joe. How can we, compare these guys? Caleb Williams hasn't been that bad. Well, I went to PFF, and I looked at quarterbacks who had at least 193 dropbacks, 26 of them. Caleb Williams is the lowest graded passer out of those 26 quarterbacks. Maye and Daniels, number 3. In fact, if you just go overall offensive grade of a quarterback inside the 193 plus dropbacks, Caleb Williams is the 25th out of 26 worst offensive quarterback in the NFL. The only quarterback with a worse overall offensive rating, Gardner Minshew. Everyone else is ahead of him. Maye and Daniels is number 3 in both of those situations. He was rated higher as a passer. He was rated higher as a runner, and has an overall offensive grade that is higher. All of those ratings are 80 plus for Maye and Daniels. Caleb Williams' only rating above 80 is his fumble grade, because he hasn't fumbled the ball. That's it. Caleb Williams, passing yards wise, inside of that rating again, right? The 193 dropbacks, 23rd out of 26. So he's the 23rd best quarterback in yards. You go off touchdowns, he's 19th. You go off of INTs, he actually doesn't turn the ball over that much, which is good. But he's still turning over 5 times, which is middle of the pack, right? It's 14th. Maye and Daniels, he's got two interceptions. Everything shows you that Maye and Daniels has performed better with arguably less talent than Caleb Williams has. The Bears went out and gave Caleb Williams every chance to succeed. They got drafted Rome Odunze, right? They brought in Keenan Allen. They gave him DJ Moore. He's got Cole Kmet. Arguably, that is one of the top skill position sets in the NFL, right? Like, he's got competency around him at every single position in the offense. The offensive line isn't overly bad. Like, I don't think the offensive line in Chicago has played that terrible, right? I just don't see it at all. I think that they have played very well. And yet, you kind of look at this, where they're at, how things are going for them. It just hasn't looked great. I mean, they don't have the greatest, pass blocking grade. They're better than a lot of the other teams that are better records than them. I mean, they have a better pass blocking than the Detroit Lions, who are 7-1. They're better than the Minnesota Vikings, who are 6-2. They're better than these teams. They're better than both the Falcons and the Texans, who are 6-3. They're better than the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 6-2. Like, they have a good pass blocking offense. They have good weapons around them. And some could say, Rome Odunze hasn't performed, blah, 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 blah. He's had some drops, but you kind of look at it. Is it Rome Odunze not performing, or is it Caleb Williams performing poorly that's holding them back? It's one of those things where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, Bears fans. I feel like you guys have consistently had to live this sort of just mishmash of consistently wondering if you're ever going to get your franchise quarterback. Because let's be fair, they have never had one. Bears fans, you guys have never had a top tier, top of the pack quarterback. Even in the 80s, when you had this great defense, McMahon was not a Pro Bowl quarterback. They look at I think that they've never had the amount of yards, like franchise, right, Romo Dunze did an interview about the franchise yards, and he was surprised to hear how much it was like in a season and how much it was total, and felt like he could break that by like his second year in the league. Like, that's the passing offense in Chicago has never been the staple. It's always been the defense and the running game, and the offensive line just being at maulers and everything like that. I mean, when they went to the Super Bowl in the early 2000s against the Colts, it was the special teams and the defense. Those were the things that really kept them in the game. They had a game manager, a quarterback. The offense was good enough to not turn the ball over and maybe get you some points, but realistically, you relied on Devin Hester and a really good defense. Now you have Caleb Williams, who, once again, even in completion percentage, with the 193 dropbacks, the only quarterbacks worse than him are Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence. And we've seen Trevor Lawrence have the drops that he has had, right? It's just not good. I don't know, what else to say here. The Bears have done very good at drafting. This is a miss. I was very concerned about Caleb Williams coming out. I know that, you really only got to see a few seasons of Jaden Daniels. He had a couple at Arizona, didn't really perform all that well, got to LSU. Was it the weapons around him? Is he really going to be able to last with his play style? His body was kind of a slender frame. You saw Caleb Williams, he was a Heisman candidate, Heisman winner. I understand why you did it. But the eye test right now tells you that Caleb Williams isn't even maybe the third best quarterback out of this draft. Bo Nix's numbers are better than his. He's, they're very actually comparable in a lot of things. Bo Nix has a little bit better completion percentage, little fewer yards per attempt. I think they're only like a 0.3 difference. Bo Nix is 8 TDs to 6 INTs. Caleb Williams is 9 TDs to 5 INTs. So they're very close, right? Actually, I think Bo Nix has more yards than him. Played one more game, but he's got more yards. So they're pretty much the same guy. You've seen Drake Maye in New England. Drake Maye in New England, he was a raw prospect. You knew he needed a lot of work, footwork, things like that, work on how to read a defense. Could he actually do that? Calling out, protections at the line of scrimmage. And yet you look at the eye test and what Drake Maye has been able to do under center with a significantly less talented skill position set, with a significantly worse offensive line, and Drake Maye is going to be a franchise quarterback. He has the look, right? He's got the way that you think it should be. He's performed with significantly less than Caleb Williams has. Caleb Williams looks like the next Mitchell Trubisky. Like, that's the miss you did. You have another miss now. You had a shot at Patrick Mahomes. You chose Mitchell Trubisky. You had a shot at Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye. You chose Caleb Williams. The real question here is, and the only way that you save this is this a Caleb Williams problem, or is it an offensive coordinator problem? Because you kind of felt, when you had Justin Fields, he had peaked. We'd seen what we got from him. That's why he's in Pittsburgh. That's why Caleb Williams is a Bear. Everyone who kind of saw this didn't blame Chicago for moving on. They'd seen enough of Justin Fields to kind of figure out internally that he had reached the top of where he was going to be. It was time to move on. But I just don't know what else to say here of that. This is just a typical Bears move. It really is. And I don't know what else to say. Could it be an offensive coordinator issue? Sure. Could it be a head coaching problem? Possibly. I mean, Matt Eberflus, I saw this, I believe it was oh God, one of the talking heads there on Fox Sports and all those sorts of things. It was like, if they play an away game on a Sunday, they're 0-18 over the last 3 years. They can't win away from Soldier Field, and they definitely can't win away from Soldier Field on a Sunday. Like, their only away games they have won have been on primetime games, Thursdays and Mondays. So if you play on a Thursday or Monday away from Soldier Field, you're great. You're going to win. But if you play away from Soldier Field on a Sunday, you're not winning. And I don't know what that tells you about the system, the coach. They don't travel well. It doesn't make sense. It's not like they're a dome team playing in the snow in December, right? They're playing Soldier Field. It's outside. It's open air. So the people in Chicago, you have a hard decision to make as far as your coaching staff goes. And by people, I mean like the organization, the owner, the GM. Because I feel like the GM has done well. Matt Eberflus is possibly the reason that this is happening. It's a possibility. The problem is that when you get a rookie quarterback, right, if you don't allow them to grow in a system, you don't allow them to have structure, and you continuously flip it multiple times, right? You give them new head coaches every year, you give them new offensive coordinators all the time. You have to reteach them everything. All the nuances change, the play calls change, right? Like the reads change, the protections change, the terminology can change. All of that changes. And so Chicago has to figure out if the head coach is the problem, the system is the problem, is it worth completely hitting a reset button in year 2 to get Caleb Williams the system and the structure he needs to succeed? Or does it stunt his growth to the point where it lowers his ceiling so much that it's not worth it? Regardless of what you choose to do, Chicago, right now it's just looking like you drafted the wrong quarterback.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.